Hello, my friends. Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa Stringworks Man Cave. Got another play along number 9. And I've picked out 5 what I think are really good songs. Well, if you include the one that I wrote. But they're all songs that seem to be popular, with crowds and things. I'm referring to mostly just small bluegrass crowds of people that listen. These are songs that seem to get a good response from the audience. I'm going to ask you to get a pencil and paper because I want you to write down the chords to one of the songs, and we might just go through that. I'll probably wait until you get your pencil and paper, but I would like to have you write down the chords in order for Redwood Hill because it's a complicated song, very complicated. If I did like Donald Trump, it's complicated, very complicated. It's a complicated song. He repeats himself like 15 times, but it is. It's not a super. It's not. I don't know. It's an easy song to play once you get it. They're all easy once you understand them, But I don't think you'll have any trouble with it if you write them down in order, because all you're doing is just switching chords in that order, and it's fairly easy to follow if you know which chords you're switching to. So I'll have you get that piece of paper and pencil, and we'll get to that here in a few minutes as far as writing those down. The first song we're going to start off with is really slow. It is a 4-chord song. In other words, it's got 4 different chords in it. And so we've got your 1, 4, 5 like normal. And then we have a 2 chord. And the 2, actually, part of the time it's a minor. In fact, most of the time it's a minor. But then there's like a little bridge in the song that does something a little different. And in that point, the A is just a straight A. It's not an A minor. So it's G, C, D, and then there's an A minor most of the time. And in the bridge part of the song, it's just a straight A. So it's called Small Exception of Me. And it's believe it or not, it's a Dean Martin song. And it's just beautifully done, though, on acoustic instruments. It's just a really pretty song. Beverly and I usually do this song as a duet. Looks like we got 18 viewers at the moment. We're going to do it in the key of G. So G is 1, C is 4, D is 5, and your A minor is your 2 minor or your straight 2, either one. Okay, so here we go. We're going to start it off in G. Everybody knows you're leaving me for good. We're going to walk down. Everybody tells me now they knew you would. It was a well-known secret I just couldn't see. And the whole world knew, with the small exception of me. Everybody knows we cried our final tear. Walk down again. Everybody tells me he stood all these years. Long ago they said I'd have to set you free. And the whole world knew, with the small exception of me. With the small exception of me, the world is wise. With the small exception of me, there's no surprise. Ain't it funny how that I could be so blind? Funny when it's out of sight, it's out of mind. But now the truth has dawned, it's plain enough to see. And the whole world knew, with the small exception of me. Yes, the whole world knew, with the small exception of me. I would say probably the trickiest part of that song is from that C down to your A minor. So we're going to do that one more time just in case you didn't understand what was going on there. We're in the C, so you've seen me do a seventh. And by the way, I'm going to do a lot of sevenths this evening. So anytime you see me raise that middle finger up, that's a seventh. When I'm just raising that middle finger like that, that's a seventh. And you can either choose to go to the seventh yourself or stay where you're at until I actually switch the whole chord. The seventh is what I call a transition chord. You're transitioning to a different chord. So here I'm going to do the first part of the song again, just to let you see that C to the A minor, just to make sure it's clear. Everybody knows you. I don't know how to start it now. Everybody knows. Okay, here we go. Everybody knows you're leaving me for good. Everybody tells me now they knew you would. It was a well-known secret I just couldn't see. And the whole world knew, with the small exception of me. Okay, so, you saw me go to the C, and then we go to that A minor, and then after a 2 chord, you most always go to your 5, though we're going to prove that wrong later when we do Redwood Hill. Like I said, so there's always somebody making a complication in there to throw you off. But for the most part, anytime you go to a 2 chord, you're going to go to your 5 chord. That's 99 times out of 100. Okay. I hope you got that one. Hope you like that. I just think that's such a pretty song, and it's just so smooth, and you can actually hear old Dean singing that one, can't you? He would do a good job on that. The next one is more of just a standard old, I don't know, it's in all kinds of music. Bluegrass has it, I don't know if country ever had it, but like jazz and Dixieland and different, they all use lines that are in this song. They may not play the exact song, but they use the same lines. Like, don't shake my peaches, that, or if you don't like my peaches, don't shake my tree. Those kinds of lines are in lots of songs. We're going to use that line in this song here too. It's called Sitting on Top of the World, and it's in G, C, D, which is 1-4-5 again. And there's an E minor in this one. So that's your 6 minor. Instead of a 2 minor, 6 minor is the more common minor. So that's up here where the E is. So if you don't know how to get there, that's your D, and then just move it up 2 frets. That's your E, and then you move this 1 finger back. That's your E minor. So that's your 6 minor. 1, 4, 5, and a 6 minor. Now this one, I hear people do it at all different speeds. I've heard it done really slow as like a, I don't know, I'm not using the right words probably, like a blues sound, a blues song really slow. I've heard it done that way. I've heard it done really fast in bluegrass and kind of in between. So we're going to try to do it kind of a medium speed, not real fast. Okay, here we go. It was in the spring, one sunny day. My My good gal left me, she went away, and now she's gone. I don't worry, 'cause I'm sitting on top of the world. Mississippi River's long, deep, and wide. The gal I'm lovin's on the other side. Now she's gone, I don't worry. I'm sitting on top of the world. G, C, G, E minor, D, G. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Show me a woman that a man can trust. Now she's gone and I don't worry. I'm sitting on top of the world. Don't like my peaches, don't shake my tree. Stay out of my orchard, let my peaches be. Now she's gone and I don't worry. I'm sitting on top of the world. 'Cause now she's gone and I don't worry. I'm sitting on top of the world. There you go, sitting on top of the world. Just a good old standard, you know. It's just one that lots and lots and lots of people play in jam sessions. It's a pretty cool tune. The next one is one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite Marty Robbins tunes. I pretty much liked everything Marty did for the most part, especially his bluesy sounding tunes, and that's what this one is. His semi-yodel tunes, if you will, and this one has a yodel in it. It's called Singin' the Blues. It's just 1/4/5 in this one, but it does switch quickly. It switches pretty darn quickly in certain places. So we're gonna be in E, the key of E. So that's E is 1, A is 4, D is 5. So whenever you're in the middle pattern, that's what I call it when your two fingers that make the chord are in on the middle strings. So whenever you're on that, 1 is there, 4 is down here, and 5 is right below it. 1, 4, 5. And that's all we're going to do. But now it's going to go from the 4 to the 5 and back to the 4, I think, pretty quickly. So you just have to kind of watch that. I'll try to do this one not too fast either. We normally do it pretty quickly. Well, I never felt more like singing the blues, 'cause I never thought I'd ever lose your love, dear. Why'd you do me this way? Well, I never felt more like crying all night, 'cause everything's wrong and nothing ain't right without you. You got me singing the blues. The moon and the stars no longer shine. The dream is gone that I thought was mine. There ain't nothing left for me to do but cry over you. Well, I never felt more like running away, but I couldn't go, for I wouldn't stay without you. You got me singing the blues. And then this would be some sort of a musical interlude, which I'm not going to try to play because it's kind of difficult to play it out of E and without any accompaniment. The moon and the stars no longer shine. The dream is gone that I thought was mine. There ain't nothing left for me to do but cry over you. Well, I never felt more like running away. I couldn't go, for I wouldn't stay without you. You got me singing the blues. Without you, You got me singing the blues. There you go. 42 viewers at the moment. Just reading the comments to make sure that nothing real bad's happening besides me singing. Let's see. Okay, so that was Singing the Blues by Marty Robbins. So now we're going to go to Vine Covered Church. Now this is a song I wrote. It's just 1-4-5 with a 2 also. And I'm going to tell you the chords in the order that we play them in this case because they do switch kind of fast. It's going to go A, D. Well, maybe I'm not going to do that either now I think about it. I didn't write them out that way, so I don't want to try to say that and get you confused. So anyway, it's A, D, E, and then there's a B in it for your 2 chords. So A, and then there's your B as your 2 chord. It's just 2 notes higher again. And as after you go to a 2 chord, you're generally going to go to a 5. So here we go. Oops, wrong song. Let's see. You won't find it on a well-traveled highway, not even on a dusty gravel road. And you have to want to be there when you find it, 'cause it's not on any maps I know. Out across the field through the pasture, you climb along a steep and rocky trail. And when you cross that little creek in the valley, you'll see that vine-covered church on the hill. That vine-covered church above the valley, where the congregation gathered to pray, built with their hands from the forest, now stands as a marker for the grave. The siding and shingles are tattered, the steeple leans slightly to the right, and though all the windows are shattered, you can still hear them singing at night. The brothers and sisters who worship gather in this holy place still, though they lie at rest in the valley, beneath that vine-covered church on the hill. That vine-covered church above the valley, where the congregation gathered to pray, built with their hands from the forest, now stands as a marker for the grave. It still stands as a marker for the grave. That one's in a bluegrass circle, hard to get a hold of. And so if you had trouble with it, don't feel bad about that, because almost everybody does. Even when I have a band, and I've had quite a few changes in bands over the years, and every time I have to train them all from scratch on that one. That's not an easy song to get the changes on. It is just 1-4-5 and a 2. That's all it is. It just happens to change fast and unusual. And that's what you try to do as a songwriter. You try to write them like that. You're trying to be the knucklehead that makes it different, And so I guess I was on that one. Even though it's not that crazy hard, once you get a hold of it, it's not that difficult. But lots of people have trouble with that one, especially in an open jam. Let me just tell you the full story on that one. I know most of you have heard it a million times, but there's always a new person or two that hasn't heard the story. I was trying to write a song about a one-room schoolhouse on my father-in-law's farm, my mother-in-law's farm, technically. And anyway, I was trying to write this, and I had tried to write that song for months. And usually it doesn't take me long to write a song. When I set my mind to writing one, it usually a few days, a few minutes sometimes, few hours sometimes. I mean, it literally can be any length of time. But this one was taking months, and I'm going, like, that just never happens. I mean, it just never happens. Well, I was driving to, I should have told this part a little earlier in this story. I was driving down to a bluegrass festival, Sam A. Baker State Park, and I saw this little vine-covered church off to the side of the highway, and it was literally falling down. The steeple was leaning over, the windows were busted out, that whole bit. Well, then now back to the story. I was trying, during that time, after I had seen that, I was still trying to write this song about the one-room schoolhouse. But every time I would sit down to try to write about the one-room schoolhouse, the little church would come into my brain and block all my thinking. And I mean, it happened every time. Somehow I'd get off thinking about the schoolhouse and I'd be thinking about the little church. And finally, I just said, well, I guess God's telling me something. I'm supposed to write the song about the little vine-covered church. So I switched over to the vine-covered church, and very short time later, I was finished. I mean, like within an hour or maybe 30 minutes, or I don't even know how long, but it was quick. It was just a few minutes, I was done. I couldn't believe it. So after all that time I had spent, Well, then, because it's kind of a tricky song, and my band at the time, I don't know, seemed like they just had a tough time grabbing a hold of stuff. It took me quite a while before we ever played it live. I would say it was another several months before we ever played it live. So the very first time we played it live, it just happened to be down in the part of Missouri where that church was. We were playing it at the Farmington Auction Barn, and I said, well, we've got to play that song down here because we're in the area. I mean, it was only another probably 10 miles down the road from the auction barns where I saw the church. So I tell the little story about the church, and then I sang the song. And so I'm off stage, and I'm around behind the stage. That stage was kind of weird. It's an auction barn, So anyway, you come down, and you're behind the auction part. And this man came out of the audience and walked around behind there, and he says, son, boy, I tell you, I like that song about the vine-covered church, but do you know you have to change the words? Well, that's a weird thing to say to somebody. And I thought, why do I need to change the words? And he goes, oh, you mean you don't know? And I said, I don't know what? He says, they just tore that church down yesterday. Man, I'm not kidding you. That sent chills down my neck. It really did. I don't know. It was weird. It's just the weirdest feeling. It was just like that little church was standing there waiting for me to write that song, is what it felt like, And every place we played that song, and I'm not making this up, I know it sounds crazy, but it's the truth. For a whole year, every single place we played that song, and I'm talking from St. Louis County to Dodge City, Kansas, to just anywhere and everywhere we played it, somebody would come up and tell me a story about that church. And it happened every single time. And I'm not making that up. I'm not exaggerating it, saying it happened most of the time. It happened every single time. They would come up and tell me some little story that, hey, I bet you didn't know they played bluegrass. That's one of my most memorable stories, was this guy says, I bet you didn't know they played bluegrass music in that church. I said, no, I didn't know that. He said, yeah, it was my grandpa. He played bluegrass music in that church. So I just thought it was such a cool story. Well, anyway, I beat that to death. And then that was my only song I've ever written that got recorded by a national act. It was recorded by the Witcher Brothers out of California. And it got a lot of airplay, oddly enough, in Ireland. That was where it got the most airplay, was in Ireland. And I got several royalty checks. I got pretty rich off of it. I think I made $75 on my biggest check. But when you figure out that you're only getting, I think 3 cents at that time, 3 cents per airplay, I mean, to get $75, at least it was played quite a bit, Anyway, Redwood Hill. This is the song we're going to do now. This is definitely the challenge song. So I hope that you've got your pencil and paper. I'm going to I want you to write these chords down in this order, because this is the order we're going to play the chords. And it makes it so much easier to play this song if you know which chords are coming. So it's G, George is the first chord. D dog is the second chord. E minor is the third chord. B boy is the fourth chord. C is the fifth chord. G is the sixth chord. A is the seventh chord. And D is, well, I mean, that's a repeated chord, but that's your last chord in the verse. That's all the chords in one verse. So write down, you could write down verse there, and that's the chords in order: G, D, E minor, B boy, C Charlie, G George, A apple, and D dog, in that order. And then on the chorus, there's not quite as many chords, but I think you need to write these down too. And so you could write down chorus, and in the chorus it goes E minor, G, C, A minor, C, D. So E minor, G George, C Charlie, A minor, C Charlie, and D dog. There you go. All right, so I'll try to play this slow. This one's hard for me to play slow. I'm going to go ahead and kick it on the mandolin, and I'm going to try to say the chords as I'm playing them. So we're starting in G. D, E minor, B, C, G, A, D, G, D, E minor, B, C, G, A, D, G. I climbed the Redwood hill. It was on a rainy day to rise above the throng and to talk to Mother Nature for a while. She told me of her love for the children in her trust, and of her great concern for the likes of you and me and us. Chorus. Crying though she was, she did speak these tender words. The thing that I am, I could not change for any man. I tried to comfort her, but she would not be still. And how the rain did fall as I found my way back down the Redwood hill. Chorus. Crying though she was, she did speak these tender words. The thing that I am, I could not change for any man. I tried to comfort her, but she would not be still. And how the rain did fall as I found my way back down the Redwood hill. No, I'll not forget the day when Mother Nature cried on the Redwood hill. There you go. We got 47 viewers now. 50. It made a liar out of me. We got 50 now. Well, I don't know how much of that you got a hold of, but at least now you know the chords in the order, and you can practice that and come back to the video and practice it if you're interested. It's just a great song. I think, wasn't that a Gordon Lightfoot song? I think it is. But anyway, it's just an awesome song, and it's a jam buster. I mean, it's either you do it solo or you do it with your band. You don't do that one in a jam, generally speaking, because nobody's going to be able to follow it. All right, so let's go through the comments here and see what we got going on. Looks like Joe Nigan was the first one in there this evening, and Dottie was in there, and Dottie says, "Are you ready? Because here we go." Hey, Jerry, my donation's on PayPal. Well, thank you very much. And if anyone else would like to make a donation or contribution, I would appreciate it. You can do it with your super chat with that $ thing in the chat area, or you can do it via PayPal just to my email address, rosastringworks@gmail.com. And you don't have to make it much. A couple bucks is great. Whatever you want to do, if you want to do anything, and you don't have to. I'm not expecting anybody to do that, and I don't want anybody to do it if you're already stressed for money. Don't do it at all. David Tharp, my neighbor said he couldn't afford his water bill, so I sent him a get well soon card. All right, that one's over my head. Let's see. My neighbor said he couldn't afford his water bill, so I sent him a get well soon card. Okay, that one's right over the top, man. I mean, that one's sailed right over. I didn't get that one at all. Michael Landreth, write it down in the number system. Okay, well, I can tell you the numbers on that too. So you got 1, 5, 6 minor, 3, 4, 1, 2, 5. That's your verse, and then your minors would be 6 minor, G is 1, C is 4, and then your A minor is your 2 minor, and then C is again going back to your 4, and then to your 5D. That's what I was telling you. On this song, when you're going to that A minor, it goes back to the C rather than the D or the 5. Okay, I don't know. Does that make sense to you? But there's definitely numbers there. Let's see. Dottie says, nice song. Let's see. The David Tharp, the 6 minor is the relative minor, not the banjo player's girlfriend. Because it's the same scale. The notes in both G and E minor are the same. Well, see, that's the stuff that you can know. I don't have to. But except for that joke about the banjo player, which I did get that one. Let's see. Kim Williford. Hello, everyone. This should be pretty good. Okay, well, thank you, Kim. Dottie Hildebrand. Hey, Kim, you doing okay? Okay, let's see. Moving on down. Looking for things that apply to me, I guess. Let's see here. Ronald Todd says, audio and video are great tonight. Did you get the wood cut? Yeah, I went out. What I did was I went out and cut slabs. Those cedar, I've been cutting all that cedar. Well, I got tons of slabs off of that, stuff that can't be lumber. So I cut up a bunch of that, just a Ranger load of it. There's tons of it. And I always do that every year. I try to cut up my slabs, and toward the end of the winter, I start burning slabs. They don't last as long, number one. Even if they're oak, they don't last as long. The slabs are kind of thin. But if you pack them in there tight, they work well enough. And most people would not burn cedar in a wood furnace. They just say, it creosote up too much. But it doesn't seem to affect this furnace at all. So I just burn it. It works great. Dottie Hildebrand, love the little church on the hill, the vine-covered church. Yep. And by the way, somebody did send me a photograph of that church not in its glory day. It was already had vines on it, but it was in better condition. And I do have that framed, and it's down in the shop. I ought to bring that up here and hang it on the wall, I guess. Anyway, Ben Boyd. Maybe I'll try to remember to bring that for tomorrow's vlog and show you that picture. Ben Boyd, I love the story behind you writing the Vine Covered Church. Well, thank you. Yeah, it's a true story. I mean, 100% true. Like I said, every single time I would sit, and that's what was bugging me the most is, why can't I write this darn song about this little one-room school? I mean, it's just a little one-room schoolhouse. It was a German schoolhouse on my mother-in-law's farm out by Herman, Missouri, or Stony Hill in this case, and where all the Germans are in Missouri. I mean, there's a bunch of them out there. And they all still speak the old timers. There's not very many of them left, but they still speak with a German accent. You know, Sue's grandparents always spoke with a German accent, and I always got a kick out of her grandpa. He said, you get them, and they always had to hold his hand up. You catch them hand-sized bluegill, you know, them good eating, them good eating, yeah. And you throw the cow over the fence some hay, yeah. Mm-hmm. Throw the cow over the fence, some hay. Let's see. David Tharp, Vine Covered Church is a really good song and a good banjo tune, easy to play along. Yeah, it is a good banjo number. In fact, the banjo had a pretty prominent part of that, the way we arranged it. Ben Boyd, holy cow, I thought I was making some progress, but this song is kicking my rear. I assume Redwood Hill. That's not an easy song. You know, it's an advanced song. There's no doubt about that. But I figured, throw it out there. Some of you will get it. Some of you will have trouble with it. Some of you will eventually get it, you know, and that's fine. It just you take your time and you learn it. I think what really helps me is having the chords in the order you play them. Because then, you know, it kind of helps you sound like the song as you're trying to sing it along. You know, you can find the woods out there, the words, the lyrics. You just type in Redwood Hill lyrics and you'll find them. They're not hard to find. Let's see. David Tharp, get well soon. Okay. Let's see. Michael Landreth, great song selection as usual. Thank you. Dottie, he had no well water, so David sent him to get a well soon. Okay. He had no well. See, it's just the way I read. I can't put it all together. I have real trouble reading and making sense of what I read. I mean, sometimes it's not too hard, but it just doesn't. I think David just does that to show how goofy I am on my reading. And there's the last comment there. I can't say his name. Manyakorahonen. It's as close as I can get. It says rawhide. Well, you have to pick rawhide, and I'm not very good at it. Even though it was my theme song at one time, I had a band. My very, very first band was called Rawhide. I can't play it well enough anymore or fast enough. Plus, I'd need accompaniment. I really would have a lot of excuses on that song right now. I can get through it. It just wouldn't sound very good. It wouldn't sound professional. So I'll just pass. But I can play it. I'm just not very good at it, especially now with the hands. By the way, I forgot to vibrate the hands until literally 1 minute and 30 seconds before we went live. And then I vibrated them that much. That helped for sure because they were pretty stiff, pretty sore. Yeah, it's the same kind of concept there I see on that last comment. Dottie Hillbrand says, nice guess. Now I forgot what that's about. WP, throw mama from the train a kiss. Yeah, that's the same way he would talk. And let me tell you a funny story about that old codger. He was an old guy. I think when I met him, he was at least my age then, and I was pretty young, and I knew him for a lot of years. And this was quite a few years later, so he was probably at least in his 80s. And he wanted to take me and my best friend, which was his grandson. Yeah, it would be his grandson, Sue's cousin, Gary Bickmeyer. Well, anyway, the old man's name was Oscar Hani. Well, Oscar wanted to take Gary and I trot line fishing on the Gasconade River. So, I'm telling you, it was horrible. It was horrible. He had an old beat up like Chevy car with, one of them big old trunks that you could park a Jeep in, And so when we get to the river, he threw open the trunk and I couldn't get near it. It stunk so bad. And I'm not exaggerating. I mean, it was worse than a dead body. It stunk so bad. And it was rotted bacon, and it was really rotted. Trust me. It stunk so bad. And it was hot, too. I mean, it was like hot. It was in the middle of hot summer, So you can imagine how hot it was in that non-air-conditioned old Chevy car, and that sun beating down on that trunk and that rotted bacon in there. That was what he wanted us to use on the trot line. Well, trust me, I never touched any of it. There was no way I was going to mess with that stuff. It had me grossed out so bad it wasn't even funny. And of course, he was laughing about that. He thought that was funny, And so he wouldn't let us use anything else. I wanted to use night crawlers and no, you can't use them. He just get all over you about it. You can't use that. You got to use this stink bait here. This will catch them catfish. Yeah, we catch them great bait. Well, I'm not lying to you. We didn't catch nothing. We didn't catch anything. And like 2 or 3, we were down there for like 3 or 4 days. I can't remember how many days we camped out, but we were down there for a while. So one night after he went to sleep, Gary and I, we got down there on the trot line and, just quietly pulled ourselves out in the middle of the river there, and we put on night crawlers on some of the hooks, And so the next morning, he grabs a hold of that trot line, and he can feel them fish banging on this trot line. He goes, oh, yeah, he gets all excited in his German accent voice, and oh, yeah, man, boys, we got something, and we get in the boat and we travel out there. We caught I don't remember exactly the weight, but it was in the neighborhood of, say, 8 pounds. I mean, it was like that size, a good size catfish, wasn't a little bitty one. And of course, we caught it on the night crawler, but we never, ever told him any different. We never did tell him that we caught it on night crawlers. He thought for sure he caught it on his stinky darn bacon. Oh, God, that stuff stunk. You can't even imagine how bad that was. I mean, you've smelled roadkill alongside the road. Well, multiply that by about 10. That's about how bad it was. It was horrible. Let's see. Thumbs up, everybody. Do that. That's what David says. Michael Andrew, you ever use shad bait for fishing? It really stinks too. I've cut up a silver shad that I've caught in the river and used it for bait. It didn't stink too bad when it's fresh. If you let it get bad, I imagine it would stink pretty bad. But anyway, guys, that's going to be it. Those stories didn't cost you one dime extra. Really, they didn't. You don't have to pay for those. We will see you tomorrow afternoon about 1 o'clock with the vlog. And I'll try to remember to get that picture of the vine-covered church and show you that as well. We'll see you then. Thanks for being here. Take care.